The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure that gleamed like a jewel among the stars. Inside, beings from 1,000 different worlds gathered in a circle that stretched as far as the eye could see. Some had scales, others had feathers, and some looked like living crystals. They all came together to discuss the matters of the galaxy. Ambassador Tai Yang stood at the human podium, his dark suit crisp and clean. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples, and his face showed no emotion. Next to him stood Jiwoo, a younger woman in a military uniform. She watched the crowd with sharp eyes, her hands clasped behind her back. The chamber filled with angry voices. At the center of the noise stood Commander Thrax of the Vex Collective. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with red scales that caught the light. His yellow eyes gleamed with confidence as he pointed one clawed finger at the human section. "The Outer Rim systems belong to the Vex now," Thrax announced, his voice booming across the chamber. "We claim them by right of expansion. The humans have no strength to hold them." A murmur ran through the council. Many species nodded in agreement. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 50 years. They were new, weak, and small in number. Their military fleet consisted of barely 300 ships scattered across dozens of worlds. The Vex commanded thousands. Taeyang raised his hand, asking for permission to speak. The ancient being known as Elder Morpheus, who looked like a creature made of starlight and shadow, gestured for silence. "Ambassador Taeyang," Morpheus said, his voice like wind through trees. "The humans may respond." Taeyang bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder. Commander Thrax, we request that you reconsider this action. The Outer Rim systems have been peacefully settled by human colonists for 20 years. They are farmers, scientists, and families. They pose no threat to the Vex Collective." Thrax laughed, and several other Vex representatives joined him. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "No threat?" Thrax said, still laughing. "Of course they are no threat. Humans are soft. You avoid war. You negotiate and talk. You have forgotten how to fight if you ever knew how." He turned to address the full council. "The humans came to space begging for peace. They signed every treaty we put before them. They limited their own military because they were afraid of themselves." He looked back at Taeyang with contempt. "And now you expect us to fear you?" Jiwoo's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. Taeyang's expression did not change. Elder Morpheus leaned forward in his seat, his form shimmering. "Commander Thrax, this council has witnessed many wars. We have seen empires rise and fall. I must warn you, the humans are not what they appear to be." "What are they, then?" Thrax challenged. "Please, Elder, enlighten us." Morpheus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried weight. "They call themselves Deathworlders. Do you know what that means?" Several species in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. The word was known but rarely spoken. "It means they come from a planet that tried to kill them every day of their evolution," Morpheus continued. "A world with violent weather, deadly predators, and diseases that should have destroyed them. But they survived. More than that, they thrived. They became the apex predator of their entire planet." Thrax waved a dismissive claw. "Many species are predators, Elder. The Vex are warriors. We have conquered 40 systems. We fear no prey." "That is your mistake," Morpheus said quietly. "You see the humans as prey, but consider this. They chose to limit themselves. They chose peace, not because they are weak, but because they know what they are capable of. Do not mistake their restraint for inability." Taeyang spoke again, his voice calm and measured. 50 years ago, when we reached the stars, we made a promise. We said we would leave our violent past behind. We have kept that promise. Our military is small by choice. Our weapons are limited by choice. We came to the galaxy not as conquerors but as neighbors." Yes, Thrax said, bored. "We have heard this speech before. You are peaceful. You are gentle. You want to be friends?" he sneered. "The Vex do not need friends. We need territory, and you are in our way." The council erupted in debate. Some species argued that the Vex claim was within their rights. Others said that unprovoked aggression should not be tolerated. But the loudest voices supported the Vex. They were powerful, and power decided many things in the galaxy. Jiwoo leaned close to Taeyang and whispered, "They are not going to listen." "I know," Taeyang replied, his eyes on Morpheus. The elder raised one hand and silence fell. "The council will vote. All those in favor of allowing the Vex territorial claim in the Outer Rim indicate now." Lights began to appear across the chamber, each one representing a species casting their vote. Blue for yes, red for no. The blues outnumbered the reds. The motion passes, Morpheus announced, though he sounded tired. The Vex Collective may proceed with their claim. Thrax roared in triumph. His fellow Vex joined him, their voices shaking the chamber. Many other species applauded, seeing an opportunity to gain favor with the powerful Vex. Tai Yang stood quietly, watching the celebration. Then he touched a control on his podium, amplifying his voice across the chamber. "Commander Thrax," he said. The Vex commander turned, still grinning. "Yes, Ambassador? Do you wish to formally surrender now?" "No," Tai Yang said. "I wish to give you one final warning." The chamber quieted, curious about what the human would say. Tai Yang looked directly at Thrax. "We came to the stars to escape our violent past. We built our ships to explore, not to conquer. We raised our children to value peace, not war. For 50 years we have been the neighbors we promised to be. And," Thrax said impatiently, "and we made that promise to protect the galaxy from what we used to be." Tai Yang continued. His voice remained calm, but something in his eyes changed. "Commander, please do not make us remember. Please do not force us to become what we left behind on Earth. There is still time to choose peace." Thrax stared at the human for a long moment, then burst into laughter again. "Are you threatening me, Ambassador? You with your handful of ships and your peaceful colonists?" He turned to the council. "Do you hear this? The human thinks he can frighten the Vex." But Elder Morpheus was not laughing. He watched Tai Yang with something like sadness in his ancient eyes. Tai Yang bowed to the council. "We have said what needed to be said. The council has voted. We will abide by galactic law." He looked at Thrax one last time. "I hope you will remember this conversation, Commander. I hope you will remember that we tried to warn you." Jiwoo gathered their documents and the two humans left the chamber. As they walked through the curved corridors of the station, Jiwoo finally spoke. "They think we are weak," she said. "Yes," Tai Yang replied. "Should we call home?" Tai Yang nodded slowly. "Yes, tell Admiral Kyungsoo that the Vex are coming. Tell him it is time to wake the protocols." Behind them, in the council chamber, Thrax was already planning his attack. He looked at his fleet commanders with hungry eyes. "Prepare the armada," he ordered. "We move on the human colony of New Jeju within the week. We will show them what happens to those who stand in the way of the Vex." His commanders cheered and saluted. None of them noticed Elder Morpheus watching from his seat, his expression grave. "Fools," the Elder whispered to himself. "I tried to warn them." In the darkness of space, the stage was set. The Vex were coming, confident in their power and their numbers. And on distant Earth, old protocols that had not been touched for half a century began to activate. Humanity had kept its promise of peace for 50 years. That promise was about to be tested. The sky above New Jeju was the color of oranges and pink flowers, peaceful and beautiful. Below, golden fields of grain stretched to the horizon, and small cities dotted the landscape like jewels. 3 million people called this world home. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and artists. They had come here to build something new. Captain Dae Hyun stood on the bridge of the Resilience, a defense frigate that orbited the planet. He was a man in his 40s with short black hair and tired eyes. He had not slept in 2 days, not since the warning came from Earth. "Captain," said Lieutenant Yuna from her station. She was young, barely 25, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her parents owned a farm on the northern continent. "Long-range sensors are picking up something." Dae-hyun moved to her station. "Show me." The holographic display flickered to life. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Ships. Hundreds of them. No, not hundreds. The computer counted 200 warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. "Sound the alarm," Dae-hyun said quietly. "Contact the other defense ships. Tell them it is time." Alarms began to wail across the frigate. Throughout the small human fleet of 12 ships, crews rushed to battle stations. On the planet below, different alarms began to sound in every city and town. Governor Jin Ho stood in the planetary command center, deep beneath the capital city. He was an old man with white hair and hands that had held weapons long before they held farming tools. He listened to the reports coming in and nodded slowly. "Begin evacuation protocol 7, he ordered. "All civilians to the deep shelters. Military personnel to defensive positions. Tell them we trained for this." Across New Jeju, families grabbed prepared bags and moved quickly to the entrances of underground shelters. There was no panic. Every colonist had practiced this drill once a month for 20 years. Children held their parents' hands and walked calmly down the wide stairs that led deep into the volcanic rock beneath the planet's surface. In orbit, the Vex fleet advanced. Commander Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed the tiny human ships. "Send them the surrender demand," Thrax ordered. The message went out across all frequencies. "Humans of New Jeju, you are now property of the Vex Collective. Surrender immediately or we will turn your cities to ash. You have 1 hour." Captain Daehyun received the message. He looked at his crew, these men and women who had served with him for years. Lieutenant Yuna met his eyes and gave a small nod. "Send our response," Daehyun said. The human response was simple. "No." Thrax laughed when he heard it. "One word?" "They answer with one word?" He turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy one of their ships. Show them we are serious." The Vex fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced out toward the human ships, but the human vessels were already moving. They scattered like leaves in the wind, each one diving toward the massive asteroid belt that circled the inner system. "Follow them," Thrax commanded. "Do not let them escape." The Vex fleet pursued, but something felt wrong. The asteroids were everywhere, thousands of them, ranging from the size of a house to the size of a mountain. The human ships wove between them like fish in a reef. Why did they build a colony in a system with such a dangerous asteroid field? One of the Vex officers asked. Thrax did not answer. He was beginning to understand, but he did not want to believe it. The Resilience dove behind a massive asteroid. Lieutenant Yuna's fingers flew across her console. "I have a firing solution, Captain." "Wait," Daehyun said. He watched his screen as 3 Vex destroyers moved past their position. "Wait, now." The Resilience emerged from behind the asteroid and fired. But they did not fire energy weapons. They fired magnetically accelerated metal slugs, simple kinetic projectiles that moved at incredible speeds. The first Vex destroyer never saw it coming. The slug punched through its shields like they were paper and tore through the hull. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. "What?" Thrax shouted. "How did they penetrate our shields?" All around the asteroid field, the other human ships were doing the same thing. They would hide, wait, and strike. The Vex had better shields and bigger guns, but in the chaos of the asteroid field, none of that mattered. Lieutenant Yuna was analyzing the Vex shield frequencies. "Captain, I found something. Their shields pulse at regular intervals. If we time our shots exactly right, we can hit them when the shields cycle." "Send that information to the fleet," Daehyun ordered. Now the human ships had an even bigger advantage. Every shot was timed perfectly. The Vex lost ship after ship and they could not understand how. "Enough," Thrax roared. "Pull back from the asteroid field. We will bombard the planet from distance." The Vex fleet retreated and formed up in high orbit. Thrax smiled. The humans had fought well, but it did not matter. He had lost 40 ships, but he still had 160. The humans had only 12 ships left and they were small. "Charge all weapons," Thrax commanded. "Target the major cities. We will burn this world and make an example of these humans." The Vex ships began to power up their orbital bombardment cannons. On the planet below, people huddled in the deep shelters and prayed. But Governor Jin-Ho was not praying. He was watching a tactical display and counting down. 30 seconds, he said to his command staff. "Sir?" an officer asked. 20 seconds, Jin-Ho continued. "They are in position now. They think we are helpless." 10 seconds. The Vex bombardment cannons reached full charge. Thrax raised his claw to give the order to fire. Then the planet struck back. From hidden locations across New Jeju's surface, massive railguns emerged from concealed bunkers. They had been built into the volcanic mountains disguised as mining equipment. Dormant for 20 years, they fired. Solid metal projectiles, each one weighing several tons, launched into space at hypersonic speeds. The Vex had been focused on the planet's cities. They never thought to scan the mountains. 12 Vex ships exploded in the first volley, then another 12. The railguns kept firing and the Vex fleet scattered in confusion. "Evasive maneuvers," Thrax screamed. "Return fire! Destroy those weapons!" The Vex fleet fired at the mountains, but the railguns were already retracting into their bunkers, protected by meters of solid rock. When the bombardment stopped, they emerged and fired again. In the asteroid field, Captain Daehyun saw his chance. "All ships attack now while they are distracted." The human frigates came screaming out of the asteroid field, firing everything they had. They targeted the Vex command ships, the ones trying to coordinate the defense. The space above New Jeju became chaos. Vex ships exploded. Human ships darted between them like wolves among sheep. The railguns kept firing from the planet, each shot perfectly calculated by targeting computers that had been maintained and updated for 2 decades. Commander Thrax watched his fleet fall apart. He had lost 80 ships now. 80! Against 12 human frigates and some planetary defense guns. It was impossible. It was shameful, Commander, his second-in-office said nervously. We should retreat. No, Thrax growled. But even as he said it, another 6 ships exploded. The humans were targeting his ammunition stores, making each Vex ship into a bomb that destroyed the ships next to it. Commander, please, the second-in-command begged. Thrax looked at the tactical display. He had come with 200 ships to conquer a peaceful colony. He now had less than 120, and they were still dying. Retreat, he said quietly. Then louder, all ships retreat. Fall back to the outer system. The Vex fleet turned and ran. The human ships did not pursue. They regrouped near the planet, battered but victorious. On the bridge of the Resilience, the crew was cheering. Lieutenant Yuna had tears on her cheeks. We did it, Captain. We actually did it. Captain Dae-hyun did not cheer. He looked at the debris field where Vex ships had been. This is just the beginning, he said. They will come back with more ships. Many more. On the planet below, Governor Jin-ho addressed the colonists over the emergency broadcast system. Citizens of New Jeju, we have won the first battle. The enemy has retreated, but make no mistake, they will return. We must prepare. We must be ready. In the deep shelters, families held each other. They had come to this world to farm and build peaceful lives. They never wanted war, but their ancestors had taught them a hard truth. Sometimes peace must be defended with strength. Commander Thrax sat on his flagship staring at the tactical data. The humans had been ready. The asteroid field, the hidden guns, the underground shelters, all of it planned, all of it prepared. They knew we would come, he said to himself. They have been waiting for someone to attack them. He felt something he had not felt in many years. Fear. He sent a message back to the Vex homeworld. Send reinforcements. Many reinforcements. The humans are not what we thought. And in the darkness of space, the message traveled faster than light, carrying news that would soon reach every corner of the galaxy. The humans had fought back, and they had won. The news from New Jeju reached Earth within hours. In homes and offices across humanity's birth world, people stopped what they were doing and watched the broadcasts. They saw footage of the Vex fleet. They heard the casualty reports. They learned that 3 human ships had been destroyed, and 200 brave crew members had died defending the colony. In the military command center deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Admiral Kyung-soo stood before a massive holographic display. He was a man in his 60s with iron-gray hair and a face carved from stone. Around him, officers from every branch of human defense forces waited for his orders. Status report, Kyung-soo said. The Vex retreated, but our intelligence suggests they are calling for reinforcements, said Colonel Min-ho, the intelligence officer. They could return with 1,000 ships or more. Our fleet strength? Kyung-soo asked. 312 ships across all human colonies, answered Admiral Young-ja, commander of the space fleet. She was a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair. Most are frigates and destroyers. We have only 20 ships larger than a cruiser. Kyung-soo nodded slowly. For 50 years, humanity had kept its promise. They had maintained only a small defense force, enough to patrol and protect against pirates, but nothing that could threaten other species. It had been a gesture of good faith to the Galactic Council. That time was over. Activate Protocol Exodus, Kyung-soo said quietly. The room fell silent. Every officer understood what those words meant. Protocol Exodus was a contingency plan created when humanity first reached the stars. It was a promise to themselves. If humanity was ever threatened with extinction, they would use every resource, every piece of knowledge, and every capability to survive. Sir, said Colonel Min-ho, are you certain? Once we activate the protocol, there is no going back. The galaxy will see what we are capable of. They attacked our people, Kyung-soo said, his voice hard. They came to our world with the intent to destroy us. We gave them warnings. We offered them peace. They chose war. He looked around the room. We will not die quietly. Activate the protocol. Within minutes, encrypted messages went out to every human world, every ship, every station. Across human space, people received the same message. It was time. Dr. Bora stood in a research facility on the far side of Earth's moon. She was a small woman with kind eyes that hid a brilliant mind. For 25 years, she had led a team of scientists and engineers working on projects that officially did not exist. "We are authorized to begin production," she told her team. "Everything we have designed, everything we have tested, it is time to make it real." Around her, scientists began activating manufacturing systems that had been waiting for decades. Humans had promised not to build certain weapons. They had kept that promise. But they had never promised not to design them, not to plan for them, not to prepare the ability to make them if needed. The factories came to life. Robotic systems began assembling weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Plasma lance cannons that could cut through ship armor like a knife through water. Kinetic missiles that could accelerate to a fraction of light speed. Electromagnetic pulse bombs designed to disable entire fleets. But the most important project was the conversion protocol. Dr. Bora had spent years designing modular ships. Every human civilian vessel, from cargo haulers to passenger liners, had been built with hidden attachment points and reinforced frames. With the right modifications, they could become warships. "How long until we can field the converted vessels?" Admiral Youngjia asked over a communication link. 72 hours for the first wave," Dr. Bora answered. "We can convert 2,000 civilian ships into combat-capable vessels within 1 week." On colony worlds throughout human space, similar preparations were happening. Hidden military depots opened. Weapon stockpiles that had been carefully maintained but never used were distributed. Reserve soldiers who had trained once a month for years received activation orders. Commander Heian stood in a briefing room on a station near Jupiter. Before him sat 50 men and women dressed in black combat armor. They were the Ghosts, humanity's special operations force. For decades, they had trained for missions they hoped would never come. "Our mission is sabotage and intelligence gathering," Heian said. He was a man who looked like he was made from iron and will. "The Vex think in terms of fleets and armies. They do not understand covert operations. We will teach them." One of the Ghosts raised her hand. It was Su Jin, a woman known for her skill in infiltration. "What are our targets, Commander?" "Everything," Heian answered. "Communication hubs, supply depots, command stations. We will strike at their infrastructure. By the time their reinforcements arrive, they will find their supply lines in ruins." Back on Earth, Ambassador Taeyang stood in a communication center, preparing to send a message to the Galactic Council. Jiwoo stood beside him, now promoted to colonel and serving as his military liaison. "Are you sure about this?" Jiwoo asked. "Once we send this message, every species in the galaxy will know." "They need to know," Taeyang said. "We tried to warn them. We tried to avoid this. But if we must fight, we will do it in the open. We will not hide what we are." He activated the communication system and began recording. "Members of the Galactic Council, this is Ambassador Taeyang of humanity. 6 days ago, the Vex Collective attacked the colony world of New Jeju without provocation. They came to murder 3 million civilians. We defended ourselves." He paused. "For 50 years, we have honored our promise to maintain only a small military. We have been peaceful neighbors. But under galactic law, specifically the survival clause, any species facing extinction has the right to use all means necessary for self-defense." Taeyang looked directly at the camera. "Humanity hereby invokes the survival clause. We are mobilizing our full defensive capabilities. We tried to warn the Vex. We tried to warn you, the Council. We said that you should not mistake our restraint for weakness. Now you will understand what we meant." The message was sent. Within hours, it would reach the Galactic Council and would be broadcast to every member species. Across human space, the transformation continued. Schools became training centers, factories retooled to produce military hardware. Every able-bodied adult reported to defense centers to receive assignments. But this was not mindless militarization. Human leaders were careful. They remembered their history, the wars that had nearly destroyed their world. They made sure that everything they did was for defense, not conquest. Governor Jinho, still on New Jeju, addressed his people. "We are not becoming what we used to be. We are not reverting to our old ways, but we will defend ourselves. We will protect our children, and when this is over, we will choose peace again. In Earth's orbital space, the converted vessels began to arrive. Cargo ships now carried missile batteries. Passenger liners had been fitted with armor and point defense systems. They were not beautiful warships, but they were effective. Admiral Youngjaw reviewed the fleet readiness reports. 2,000 converted vessels operational. Another 3,000 in the process. Our original military fleet has been reinforced and resupplied. Total combat-capable ships 2,312. And the Vex? Kyung-soo asked. Intelligence suggests they are assembling a force of 3,000 ships. They will arrive at New Jeju within 30 days. Kyung-soo studied the tactical displays. 3,000 Vex ships against humanity's 2,300. The numbers were close, but numbers were not everything. The Vex had better individual ships. They had more experience in large-scale warfare, but humanity had something else. They had spent 50 years studying every species in the galaxy. They knew Vex tactics, Vex technology, Vex psychology, and they had remembered every lesson from their own violent past. Prepare the fleet, Kyung-soo ordered. We will meet them at New Jeju. We will show them that humans defend their own. On a distant research station, young scientists analyzed combat data from the first battle. They identified weaknesses in Vex shield technology, patterns in their tactical formations, and vulnerabilities in their ship designs. This information was distributed to every human ship. Commander Hyan and his ghosts departed on their missions. They traveled on fast, stealthy ships toward Vex territory. Their presence was humanity's hidden blade, the weapon the Vex would never see coming. And in millions of homes across human worlds, parents read to their children from history books. Books that told the story of Earth, of the wars humans had fought, the struggles they had overcome. These were not pleasant stories, but they were necessary ones. Why do we learn about the wars, Mom? A young boy on Mars asked his mother. She looked at him with sad eyes. Because we need to remember what we are capable of, both good and bad. We need to remember so that we never choose violence unless we have no other choice. But when we have no other choice, we need to remember how to survive. The boy did not fully understand, but he nodded. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human mobilization with growing concern. Some felt satisfaction, believing the humans would finally be crushed. Others felt fear, remembering Elder Morpheus's warnings. A few species sent quiet messages of support to the human government, though they did not dare to do so publicly. Ambassador Tae Yang received one such message from a species called the Kalari. The Vex communication hub orbited a dead moon in the outer reaches, far from any major Vex world. It was a massive station, bristling with antennas and relay equipment. Through this hub, the Vex coordinated their empire, sending orders to fleets and colonies across dozens of systems. Su Jin floated in the darkness of space, her black armor making her nearly invisible against the stars. Behind her, 5 other ghosts waited for her signal. They had spent 3 days traveling here in a stealth ship, and another 6 hours slowly approaching the station. Thermal reading shows 12 guards in the outer ring, whispered Minwoo through the team's encrypted communication. He was their technical specialist, a young man who could make computers do things their designers never intended. Security field is active on the main docking port, added Ji-hai, their demolitions expert. Sujin studied the station through her helmet's enhanced vision. The Vex had built their security to defend against fleets, not individuals. They never considered that an enemy might send soldiers to infiltrate one by one. We go in through the waste disposal port, Sujin decided. Minwoo, can you override the automated systems? Already done, Minwoo replied. The system thinks the port is malfunctioning. It has opened and will stay open for 10 minutes. The team moved. They used small jets on their suits to propel themselves toward the station, timing their approach to avoid the automated sensor sweeps. Within 5 minutes, all 6 ghosts were inside the station. The interior was built for Vex physiology. Everything was too large, too hot. The ghosts moved through maintenance tunnels, their suits' cooling systems working hard against the heat. Communication control center is 2 levels up, Minwoo said, checking his data pad. But there is a problem. 20 guards between us and our target. Sujin considered their options. Fighting 20 Vex warriors in close combat would be difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. We do not need to reach the control center, she said. We just need to destroy it. Ji-hai, can you do it from here? Ji-hai smiled behind her helmet. Give me access to the ventilation system in 30 minutes. They found an access panel. Minwoo opened it with his tools, and Jihai began placing small explosive charges in specific locations throughout the ventilation network. These were not ordinary explosives. They were designed to create a chain reaction, to turn the station's own systems against itself. 28 minutes, Jihai said. Set and ready. Extraction point? Sujin asked Minwoo. Emergency escape pods on level 3. I can program one to look like it launched due to a malfunction. It will buy us time before they realize what happened. The team moved to the escape pod bay. They had just sealed themselves inside a pod when Jihai triggered the charges. The explosions were small, barely noticeable at first, but they ruptured coolant lines and severed control cables in precisely calculated locations. Within seconds, the station's communication array began to overload. Alarms wailed as systems failed one after another. What is happening? A Vex commander shouted on the station. System failure, sir. Multiple critical malfunctions. The Ghost's escape pod launched, appearing to be just another automatic evacuation. By the time the Vex realized the station had been sabotaged, the pod was already too far away to recall. Their stealth ship picked them up 3 hours later. Commander Haiyan received Sujin's report from his position near another Vex system. Communication hub destroyed, well done. Return to base and prepare for your next mission. Sir, Sujin replied, there are 12 more hubs in this sector alone, and supply depots, and command stations. We are only 6 people. You are not alone, Hyun said. There are 50 ghost teams operating across Vex space right now. By the time their reinforcement fleet is ready to attack New Jeju, they will be deaf, blind, and starving. He was right. Across the Vex Collective's territory, ghost teams struck like shadows. A fuel depot would explode mysteriously. A supply convoy would disappear. A command station's life support would fail. The Vex could not understand it. They had never faced an enemy that struck from within, that hit and vanished like smoke. Commander Thrak sat in his ready room aboard his flagship, reviewing reports that made no sense. In the past 20 days, the Vex Collective had lost 16 communication hubs, 42 supply depots, 12 command stations, and countless smaller facilities. But they had never seen the enemy. Not once. How are the humans doing this? He demanded of his intelligence officers. We do not know, Commander. Our sensors detect nothing. Our guards report nothing. Then suddenly systems fail or explosions occur. They must be using some kind of advanced stealth technology, Thrak said. But even as he said it, he did not believe it. This was something else. This was a kind of warfare the Vex had never encountered. Meanwhile, Captain Dae-hyun commanded a battle group of 20 converted cargo vessels. They waited near the border between human and Vex space, monitoring traffic. Vex convoy approaching, Lieutenant Yuno reported. 6 cargo ships escorted by 4 frigates. Identification? Dae-hyun asked civilian transponders. According to the manifest, they carry farming equipment to a Vex colony. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. Scan for weapon signatures. Yuna's fingers moved across her console. Her eyes widened. Captain, those farming equipment containers have military-grade shielding. I am reading plasma cores inside them. They are smuggling weapons to their fleet, Dae-hyun said. Change our transponders to Vex civilian codes. Use the ones Minwoo's team captured from that supply depot. His ships changed their identification signals. To any Vex scanner, they now appeared to be legitimate Vex cargo vessels. Move to intercept. Stay in formation like we are a normal convoy. The human ships approached the Vex convoy. The Vex captains, seeing what they thought were friendly vessels, opened a communication channel. Unidentified convoy. State your cargo and destination. We carry supplies for the frontier colonies, Dae-hyun replied in perfect Vex language. Minwoo's intelligence teams had provided them with everything they needed, including language databases. Acknowledged. Safe travels. The 2 convoys passed within a few kilometers of each other. Then Dae-hyun gave the order. Fire. 20 ships opened fire at point-blank range. The Vex escorts never had a chance to raise shields. They exploded instantly. The cargo ships, unarmed and unarmored, were disabled within seconds. Board them, Dae-hyun ordered. Take everything useful. Destroy the rest. Human Marines in powered armor stormed the cargo vessels. They found exactly what the scans had shown. Weapons, ammunition, and military supplies meant for the Vex reinforcement fleet. All of it was confiscated or destroyed. By the time Vex patrol ships arrived to investigate, the human vessels were gone, vanished into the darkness of space. This became humanity's strategy. They did not fight the great battle the Vex expected. Instead, they struck at logistics, at supply lines, at all the boring but vital things that kept a military force operating. The Vex fleet assembling to attack New Jeju found itself short on fuel, short on ammunition, short on spare parts. Commander Thrax became increasingly frustrated. His warriors wanted to fight, but they could not fight an enemy they could not find. He received reports of ghost attacks, of supply convoys ambushed, of facilities destroyed, but he never received reports of actual enemy sightings. "How are they invisible?" he roared at his intelligence chief. "Stealth technology is not perfect. Something should detect them." "Commander," the intelligence chief said carefully, "perhaps they are not using stealth technology. Perhaps they are simply using tactics we do not understand." "Tactics?" Thrax slammed his claw on the desk. "War is simple. You bring your fleet. You face your enemy. You win or you lose. There is no honor in hiding." But honor did not stop ghost teams from destroying Vex supply depots. Honor did not prevent human raiders from capturing Vex shipments. And honor definitely did not feed or fuel the Vex fleet. On the 30th day, the Vex reinforcement fleet was supposed to depart for New Jeju. They had assembled nearly 2,800 ships, though they had hoped for 3,000. But as the fleet prepared to leave, problems emerged. Fuel reserves are at 70%, a logistics officer reported. Ammunition stocks are at 65%, said another. 30% of our vessels report critical spare parts shortages. Thrax stared at the reports in disbelief. How was this possible? The Vex collective was vast and wealthy. They had never struggled with supplies before. "The humans," he said quietly. "They have been attacking our logistics for a month." "Yes, Commander," the logistics chief confirmed. "We estimate they have destroyed or stolen supplies equivalent to supporting a fleet of 5,000 ships for 3 months. Thrax felt that unfamiliar emotion again. Fear. The humans had been preparing. They had studied the Vex. They had learned that the Vex were powerful in direct combat, so they refused to fight directly. Instead, they attacked everything that supported that combat power. "We cannot delay the attack," Thrax said. "Vex Supreme Leader Vax demands we crush the humans. We will depart as scheduled." "But Commander, our fuel—" "I said we depart," Thrax roared. "The humans are inferior. We still outnumber them. We will win." The Vex fleet began its journey to New Jeju, but they traveled knowing their supplies were limited, their communication network was damaged, and somewhere in the darkness. The Vex fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2,800 warships appeared in perfect formation, blocking out the stars themselves. It was the largest armada the Vex collective had ever assembled. Commander Thrax stood on his flagship's bridge and gazed at the small blue planet in the distance. Earth, the human homeworld. After their humiliation at New Jeju and the month of invisible attacks on their supply lines, Vex Supreme Leader Vax had changed the strategy. Why attack a colony when you could destroy their heart? "This ends today," Thrax said. "Once Earth falls, the humans will surrender. They are still primitives who need a homeworld." His fleet began its advance toward the inner system. But something was wrong. The sensors showed far more activity than expected. "Commander," the sensor officer said nervously, "I am detecting multiple defense platforms. Thousands of them." "Explain," Thrax demanded. "The asteroid belt, sir. Every asteroid larger than a building has been converted into a weapons platform. And there are orbital installations around every planet. Jupiter has 300 defensive stations alone." Thrax felt his confidence waver. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. But he had his orders. The Vex fleet continued forward. On Earth, Admiral Kyung-Soo watched the tactical display in the command center. Around him, thousands of officers coordinated the defense. Every human ship that could fly had returned home. Every defensive platform was online. Every weapon was ready. "Status?" Kyung-Soo asked. "The Vex fleet numbers 2,800 ships," Colonel Minho reported. "But our intelligence from Commander Hyon suggests they are operating at reduced capacity. Fuel at 70%, ammunition at 65%. And our forces?" Admiral Youngja stepped forward. 2,400 ships in the defensive fleet, 4,000 automated defense platforms throughout the system, 800 manned orbital installations, all weapon systems operational. And Admiral, we have one more asset. She nodded to Dr. Bora, who stood at a separate console. The scientist looked tired but determined. "The Helios array is ready," Dr. Bora said. 30 kinetic missiles in solar orbit, each capable of accelerating to .2 light speed. Impact force equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. Kyung-soo nodded. "Captain Dae-hyun, status of the Vanguard fleet?" "On a ship beyond the orbit of Neptune," Captain Dae-hyun responded. "Battle Group 1 ready, Admiral. We will engage them in the outer system and draw them toward the asteroid belt." "Good," Kyung-soo said. He took a deep breath. This was it. 50 years of peace ended by Vex aggression. But humanity would not go quietly into the night. "All units, this is Admiral Kyung-soo. The Vex have come to our home. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. Show them what humans do when cornered." Across the solar system, human forces acknowledged the order. The Vex fleet reached Neptune's orbit when Captain Dae-hyun's battle group struck. 200 ships appeared from behind the ice giant and opened fire. They targeted the Vex fuel tankers and supply ships at the rear of the formation. "Destroy them," Thrax ordered. 600 Vex warships broke formation to chase Dae-hyun's fleet. It was exactly what the humans wanted. The Vanguard fleet retreated, leading the Vex deeper into the system, into the waiting trap. As they passed Uranus, automated defense platforms activated. Thousands of missiles launched from hidden positions. The Vex shields held, but they had to slow down to deal with the attacks. "Keep pushing them back," Dae-hyun ordered his ships. "Make them work for every kilometer." Lieutenant Yuna was coordinating the tactical computer. "They are taking the bait. 600 ships are chasing us, and the main fleet is being drawn forward to support them." The battle continued across Saturn's rings. Human ships used the ice and rock as cover, firing and retreating, always leading the Vex forward. Then the Vex fleet reached the asteroid belt. "All platforms, activate now," Admiral Youngja commanded. 4,000 asteroids that had been hollowed out and filled with weapons came to life. Railguns, missile batteries, energy weapons, all firing at once. The asteroid belt became a storm of metal and fire. The Vex fleet found itself surrounded by enemies on all sides. Hundreds of asteroids, each one a fortress, each one targeting different Vex ships. The formation that had looked so impressive now became a weakness. Ships got in each other's way, blocking firing solutions, unable to maneuver effectively. "Spread out," Thrax commanded. "Destroy those asteroids!" But destroying asteroids was not simple. They were solid rock with weapons buried deep inside. The Vex had to use heavy weapons to crack them open, weapons that required time to charge and aim. Meanwhile, Captain Dae-hyun's fleet circled back and attacked from behind. The main human defensive fleet, commanded by Admiral Youngja, moved in from the direction of Mars. The Vex fleet was caught in a giant trap, with asteroids on all sides, human fleets attacking from 2 directions, and nowhere to run that was not covered by weapons. "Commander Thrax," Admiral Youngja broadcast on an open channel, "you have lost. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to Galactic law." Thrax laughed, though there was no humor in it. "Surrender? The Vex do not surrender to prey." "We tried to warn you," Youngja replied. "We tried to tell you. We are not prey." The battle intensified. Vex ships exploded by the dozens, their hulls torn apart by concentrated fire. Human ships died too, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect their home. But for every human ship destroyed, 5 Vex ships fell. Jiwoo, now coordinating tactical operations, noticed something in the Vex formation. "Admiral, their command ships are clustering in Sector 7. They are trying to organize a breakout," Dr. Bora, Kyung-soo said. "Target the Helios array on Sector 7. "Confirmed," Dr. Bora replied. Her fingers moved across her console, missiles launching in 3, 2, 1. From their position close to the sun, 30 kinetic missiles activated. They had been falling toward the sun, building up speed. Now they redirected toward the asteroid belt, toward Sector 7, accelerating to 20% of light speed. Nothing could stop them at that velocity. Nothing could even see them coming until it was too late. They struck the clustered Vex command ships like the fist of an angry god. The explosions were visible from Earth, bright flashes in the night sky. 15 Vex capital ships, including 3 fleet carriers, ceased to exist in an instant. The Vex fleet fell into chaos. Without their command ships, without coordinated orders, they fought as individuals rather than as a fleet. And individual ships, no matter how powerful, could not win against an organized defense. "Commander, Thrax's second-in-command said urgently. We have lost 60% of our fleet. Our ammunition is nearly exhausted. Fuel reserves are critical. We must retreat. Thrax looked at the tactical display and saw the truth. They had lost. The humans had outplanned them, outfought them, and destroyed them. All ships, Thrax said, his voice hollow. Retreat. Full speed to the outer system. The surviving Vex ships, barely 800 out of the original 2,800, turned and ran. Human ships did not pursue far. They had defended their home. That was enough. In the command center on Earth, officers were cheering. People were crying and hugging each other. But Admiral Kyungsu stood quietly, looking at the casualty reports. 300 human ships destroyed. Thousands of lives lost, sir, Colonel Minho said softly. You did it. We won, yes, Kyungsu replied. But at what cost? And it is not over yet, he was right. The Vex had retreated, but they had not surrendered. The war could continue. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Tae Yang stood before the assembled representatives. Elder Morpheus presided over an emergency session. The humans have defeated a Vex fleet at their home world, Morpheus announced. We now must decide how to proceed. The Vex should be sanctioned. Several species called out, the humans are too dangerous. Others argued. They have shown they are violent. Taeyang stepped forward. We defended ourselves. We did not start this war. We warned Commander Thrax, we warned this council, but we were ignored. He looked around at the thousands of species represented. Now you have seen what humans can do when forced to fight. But let me tell you what else humans can do. He pulled up a holographic display. Before the Vex attacked, we had 300 ships. Now we have over 2,000. We could, if we chose, continue building. We could take this fleet and conquer. We have the weapons, the knowledge, the will. The council chambers fell silent. Every species understood the threat. But we will not, Taeyang continued, because that is not who we are. We came to the stars for peace, and we still want peace. We ask only that the Vex be sanctioned for their unprovoked aggression, that they pay reparations for the lives they took, and that this council guarantee it will not happen again. Elder Morpheus leaned forward. Commander Thrax, the Vex representative. What say you? Thrax stood, his scales dull with defeat. We surrender. We accept the human terms. And Vex Supreme Leader Vax? Morpheus asked. A hologram appeared. Vax, a massive Vex with scarred scales, looked at the council with hatred. The Vex will never truly surrender to prey animals. When we have rebuilt, we will— No, Thrax interrupted, something the Vex had never done to their supreme leader. We will not. I have seen what the humans can do.